The bus had broken down miles away from the nearest town. Most passengers sat inside quietly, waiting for the driver to finish his endless repair attempts. But Arjun, restless and curious, stepped outside. The night was cold, and the air carried a strange heaviness. He walked a little ahead. Something about this place felt unnatural. He realized it after a few minutes. There were no sounds. Not a single cricket, no rustle of leaves, no dogs barking in the village nearby. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was suffocating. One of the older passengers saw him and rushed over. His wrinkled hand grabbed Arjun's wrist. "Don't wander, son. Past the broken temple, there's a path. That path leads to the Haveli. You must not go there." That place swallows sound. Arjun tried to smile. "I'll just look around. Don't worry." The old man's grip tightened. His eyes were wide, frightened. "You don't understand. People who enter that house after nightfall never return the same. Some vanish, some come back. But they never speak again." The words lingered in the air. But curiosity had always been Arjun's weakness. He gently freed his hand and walked away. The broken temple appeared soon enough, crumbling walls, idols shattered as though abandoned by gods themselves. Behind it, just as the old man had said, was a narrow path, half hidden under weeds. Arjun hesitated. The fog ahead looked alive, curling like pale hands trying to drag him in. But his curiosity pushed him forward. His shoes crunched against gravel. Yet the sound felt muted, swallowed by the night. The path stretched endlessly until at last he saw it. The mansion, a colossal decaying Haveli, stood at the end of the trail. Its broken windows stared like hollow eyes. An iron gate leaned crookedly, hanging on rusted hinges. The walls were cracked and stained with time, but the structure still loomed with an unnatural presence. Arjun's chest tightened. He had seen ruins before, but this place seemed alive, watching. He stepped closer. His breath fogged the air. The silence pressed harder, filling his ears like water. And then the gate moved, just slightly. Enough to creak. The sound was so sharp, so loud against the heavy silence, that Arjun jumped. His flashlight beam trembled in his hand. He almost turned back, but then he thought of the stories he could tell, the thrill of proving himself braver than the villagers' fears. He reached out, pushed the gate. It groaned like a dying man, and at that very moment, the silence broke. A whisper drifted through the air. Faint, impossible to place. Not words, just the sound of breath against his ear. Arjun froze, spinning around. No one was there. Only the fog, thick and still. He took a deep breath, steadied himself, and stepped inside. The courtyard was littered with dry leaves and broken stones. To one side stood a ruined well, covered in moss. The mansion's main door loomed ahead, its wood swollen with age, its handle rusted black. Arjun's heart pounded louder than his footsteps as he climbed the cracked steps. His hand hesitated on the handle. For a long moment, he simply listened. Nothing, not even the wind. Then, with a sudden push, he opened the door. The air inside hit him like ice. His flashlight cut through the gloom, revealing a hallway draped in cobwebs. Dust floated like ash in the beam. Old portraits hung crooked on the walls, their faces blurred and decayed. Some had no faces left at all, just blank patches of mold where eyes and mouths should have been. Arjun's throat went dry. He stepped inside. The wooden floor groaned beneath him, the sound unnaturally loud. He shined his light ahead and saw broken furniture scattered across the hall. The wallpaper peeled in strips, revealing dark stains beneath, stains that looked disturbingly like dried blood. He took another step, then another, and that's when he saw a dot at the far end of the hall. A shadow moved. It was quick, too quick. Like something slipping just out of sight. Arjun froze. His flashlight jerked toward the movement, but there was nothing. Only the long hallway stretching into darkness. "Hello?" He called, his voice breaking. The echo came back, distorted. The same word, stretched and twisted. "Hello." Arjun's blood ran cold. There was no one there. He told himself it was just his imagination, just echoes in an empty house. But deep down, he knew the silence here wasn't normal. It wasn't empty. It was alive, and it was listening. The locked door. Arjun forced his legs to move, though every instinct screamed for him to turn back. His flashlight quivered as he swept it across the dusty hall. The beam landed on a grand staircase rising into darkness. Its banister was cracked, steps broken. In places, but still intact enough to climb. Old portraits lined the wall beside it. Their eyes seemed to follow him, though most of the faces were faded, missing features. As he moved closer, he swore one of the portraits blinked. He gasped, stumbling back. The light shook in his hand. He looked again, nothing. Just flaking paint and cracked canvas. His heart pounded. He whispered to himself, "Get a grip. Just old paint, that's all." But the silence answered back, not an echo, not a sound. Just silence pressing harder, like the walls were listening, waiting. Arjun turned away from the stairs and followed the hallway deeper into the mansion. Every door he passed revealed scenes of decay. A dining hall with a long table covered in rotten wood. A kitchen with rusted pots hanging from chains. A collapsed study where books lay scattered and eaten by mold. Each room smelled of dust and something faintly metallic, like dried blood. Then, halfway down the hall, he stopped. There was one door that stood out. Unlike the others, it was not broken or rotting. It stood tall and heavy, its wood strangely intact. Thick iron locks held it shut, their metal blackened with age. Around the frame, strange markings were carved, circles, symbols, jagged lines that seemed to crawl in the light of his torch. Arjun's pulse quickened. He reached out. His fingertips brushed the lock. It was freezing cold, colder. An ice. And then bang. Something slammed against the other side of the door. The wood shook violently, dust falling from the frame. Arjun jumped back, nearly dropping his light. His chest heaved as he stared wide-eyed at the door. Another bang, louder this time. The locks rattled, the wood groaning, and then came the whisper. Soft hissing from the other side. "Let me out." Arjun's blood froze. His flashlight beam trembled across the symbols carved into the frame. For a moment, he thought they moved. The lines writhed, twisting into new shapes before his eyes. He shook his head, muttering, No, this isn't real." But the voice came again, closer, clearer. "Let me out." Suddenly, the locks snapped open. One by one, each bolt unlatched on its own with a loud metallic clack. Arjun's breath caught. He couldn't move, couldn't run. The final lock dropped. The door creaked open. A cold wind rushed out, sweeping dust into his face. His light pierced the room. It was empty. Completely empty, except for a single wooden chair in the center. And on that chair sat a figure. It was draped in tattered white cloth, its head bowed, hands limp at its sides. The skin visible beneath the cloth was pale, almost gray. Arjun's knees weakened, his voice cracked. Who are you?" The figure didn't move, but in his mind, not through ears, but inside his skull, he heard the whisper again. "You broke the seal." Arjun stumbled back, shaking his head. "No, I didn't." The door slammed shut behind him. The silence thickened, pressing against his chest, crushing his lungs. He tried to scream, but no sound came. His voice was gone. The figure stirred. Slowly, unnaturally, it began to rise from the chair. The cloth floated around it as though underwater, and then its face lifted. Arjun's stomach dropped. The face was not human. Hollow black sockets stared at him, endless pits of darkness. Its mouth opened wide, a gaping void, swallowing the light of his torch. The silence screamed inside his skull. Arjun dropped the flashlight. It rolled across the floor, spinning until its beam landed back on the figure. The thing moved closer. Every step it took seemed to erase the world around him. The creak of the floor, the sound of his breathing, even the frantic beat of his heart gone. The silence had consumed everything. The figure raised one hand, pale and long, fingers stretched. Like claws. It reached for his chest. Arjun tried to back away, but his legs refused to move. His body felt heavy, chained by the silence. The cold hand touched his chest, and Arjun felt something inside him, pulling. His scream, his breath, his very soul, dragged out in silence. His mouth opened wide, but nothing came out. Nothing. At all. The last thing he saw before his vision dimmed was the figure's hollow face leaning closer, whispering inside his skull, "You belong here now." The last visitor. The silence crushed Arjun's body, pressing against his chest, his throat, his very bones. His eyes blurred as the figure's hollow face loomed closer. The cold hand clawed deeper into his chest, pulling, tugging at something unseen. And then darkness. When Arjun woke, he was no longer standing. He was sitting. His hands dangled limp at his sides. His throat felt raw, but no sound escaped when he tried to speak. He looked down, a wooden chair beneath him, carved with the same strange symbols that had lined the door. His breath quickened. He tried to rise, but his body refused. Invisible chains held him in place. Across the room, the figure was gone, but the silence remained, heavy, watching. Arjun's mind raced. He could feel something was different. The silence wasn't just around him anymore, it was inside him. It filled his lungs, crawled through his veins, lodged itself in his skull. He tried to scream, tried to move, tried to do anything. Nothing. The house had claimed him. Outside, dawn broke. The villagers found the broken bus still stranded on the road. Passengers were shaken, but alive. Only one seat was empty. Arjun's. The old man who had warned him the night before whispered in fear. He didn't listen. The silence has taken another one. The villagers gathered torches and ropes. For generations, they had avoided the Haveli after nightfall. But sometimes, when a fool wandered too close and never returned, they had no choice but to enter after sunrise. The group moved down the narrow path. The broken temple loomed, its shattered idols watching silently as they passed. The fog was thinner now, but the air was no less heavy. When they reached the mansion gates, no one wanted to step forward. The iron bars were coated in dew, their rust glistening red in the morning light. The silence of the place weighed on them, thicker than any mist. One of the younger men swallowed hard and pushed the gate. It creaked open, the same dying groan Arjun had heard. The courtyard lay before them, still and lifeless. The well, the leaves, the crumbling stones. Unchanged. They entered the mansion. The smell of dust and rot greeted them. Their footsteps echoed unnaturally loud in the silence, as though the house was mocking them. They searched room after room, finding only decay, until at last they reached the locked door. Only it was no longer locked. The iron bolts lay scattered across the floor. The door stood wide open, as though inviting them in. One of the villagers whispered, "No." The seal. Torches flickered as they stepped inside. The room was bare, save for a single chair in the center, and on it sat Arjun, his head bowed, hands limp, eyes wide open. At first, they thought he was alive. But when they called his name, he did not move, did not blink, did not breathe. One of them touched his shoulder. The silence deepened. Arjun's head jerked up suddenly. His eyes were black voids, endless pits of darkness. His mouth opened wide, wider than humanly possible, and though no sound escaped his lips, every villager heard the same whisper inside their skulls. "You shouldn't have come." The torches blew out. The door slammed shut. Outside, The mansion loomed in silence once more. Birds flew above the trees, but none entered its grounds. The path behind the temple grew still, and in the heart of the Haveli, another chair waited in the dark, empty, waiting for the next visitor who dared to disturb. The silence, because in this house, silence is alive, and it is always hungry.